your blade.
Alright, it's Sunday. It's raining. I just stepped in a fresh, gooey hairball and had to change my socks. And now it's time for some book reviews. Alright, first up, The Hanging Stones, Manly Wade Wellman. Berkeley Books. This is the Berkeley Books edition from 1984. The cover art is Carl Lundgren. It was originally published by Doubleday in 1982. Manly Wade Wellman is most well known for being a pulp writer in the peak of the Weird Tales run. He was born in 1903 in Camundongo, Portuguese West Africa, which is now Angola, and he died in Chapel Hill, North Carolina in 1986. He was married to fellow Weird Tales author Francis Obrist. Along with selling stories, Wellman had odd jobs such as farming, working in cotton gins, and being a bouncer. His name is Manly. What did you expect? He occasionally wrote for the comic books, including Captain Marvel and The Spirit. He once beat out William Faulkner for the best story in Ellery Queen Mystery Magazine, which really pissed off Faulkner. Manly is indeed his real name. Alright, basic premise. Local folk musician John the Balladeer, or Silver John, which I prefer, is headed up to T-Tray Mountain to check out this replica of Stonehenge that they are building. He encounters bossy rich guys, a clan of werewolves, a Stonehenge historian hermit, and is pulled into a supernatural battle between ghosts of the past and the greed of the present. This is not an easy book to lay down a basic premise on. It's such an original book that I wasn't even sure what notes I should be taking. I didn't know what was important and what wasn't. It's all important, by the way. He's a great writer. I had zero idea where the plot was going, who was going to be important, and what parts would be played. We're just going to go ahead and give a standing ovation right here at the beginning and hope to do this thing some justice. I'm not going to stand up, but just imagine I'm standing. Alright, I usually like to start off with the characters, but let's start with the North Carolina setting here, as I believe it's truly the heart of the novel. I wouldn't call this world building, as Appalachia is a world that exists, but Manly Wade brings it to life with such enthusiasm and romanticism that it almost feels like a fantasy world. Something like this would be very difficult to write and not be A, offensive, or B, cartoonish. So the characters' dialogue, the speech, is written in this Appalachian slang, and I've seen some reviews from people who live in that area that says that even the regional dialect accent is on point. Basically, it's written like this, but I think you get used to it real quick. It seems like it'd be annoying, but it's not. It's enjoyable. The main character's name is simply John. He's also known throughout the hills as John the Balladeer, or Silver John, because of the pure silver strings on his guitar. He's a traveling folk singer, fighting the evil entities who creep into his mountain world. He reminds me of a mix between real-world traveling man Woody Guthrie, one of my heroes, fighting for the little man, and Robert E. Howard's character Solomon Kane, a devout Christian with one foot in the world of the occult, battling folklorish mythical evil entities. Silver John may be my favorite fictional character. He has such a logical, simple nature, which to an outsider might make him seem like he's a dumb yokel. But he is incredibly witty and intelligent. His logic is genius in its simplicity, and I also love how manly he is. He's always ready to throw down with his fists, and he's macho without the standard extravagant characteristics. If this is your first Silver John novel, it has a wonderful introduction to the character. He's headed up the T-Tray Mountain to see this new Stonehenge replica they're building. There's a car stuck in the mud. John runs up, being the helpful guy, John runs up and helps by pushing the car. He says, and I quote, "I had to put my man into it." The guy, he takes off without so much as a thank you or a wave. John, he's just like, whatever, shrugs, and he heads on up the mountain. He comes upon a security guard with a gun who tells him to scram, "Get out of here, you bum." John doesn't appreciate the way the man is talking to him. And he says, "You wouldn't be much without that gun on your side." Even though it sounds like John is a macho tough guy, his demeanor is not violent. He's actually very cool, calm, and collected. but he definitely doesn't like being disrespected, and he'll let you know about it. The security guard is more than happy to throw his gun to the side, and these two dudes are about to duke it out, and I am loving it. And then the boss comes running down the hill saying, hold on, and John recognizes it as the man with the car who was stuck in the mud. The man's name is Noel Cotler. He is the man who's building the Stonehenge replica at the top of Tea Tree Mountain, and he wants to give John a job. What's that job? There has been some fuzzy-headed, pointy-ear characters sneaking around the build site, and John is tasked with finding out about them and getting rid of them. And even though John doesn't like Cotler in the slightest bit, he's a curious sort of fellow, and there seems to be strange goings-on, and he wants to see what it is. He meets a man who lives on the mountain named Esdras, who says his name comes from the two books in the Apocrypha, which I had to look it up. It means biblical or related writings not forming part of the accepted canon of Scripture. He also says that he is the seventh son of a seventh son, which I only know because of Iron Maiden, so once again I had to look that up. And seventh son of a seventh son is an ever-changing concept from folklore throughout the world. In Romania, it means that the son will be a vampire. In Latin America, it means that the son will be a werewolf. In Italy, you would have power over snakes. And in England and Ireland, they were healers. So there are two New Age spiritual leaders who want to invest in New Stonehenge. They only care about money, as does Noel Cotler, replica Stonehenge builder guy. There's a subtle anti-commercialism thread going on here. John and Esdras comment on how wrong it seems, but then in the same breath, John remembers that he heard they charge money for the real Stonehenge. To that, Esdras replies, the money goes to the Nature Conservatory. Wellman's viewpoints and values are smoothly woven into the story. You are never spoken to or preached at. It is the opposite of Death World 2. This is how you write your values into a story, Mr. Harrison. Pay attention. He's dead, but pay attention back in the past. All right, I'm afraid that I'm making this out to be too serious. It's not. It has werewolves. It has fist fights with werewolves. Silver John is a fist-fighting fool. At one point, he's about to travel into danger, and someone hands him a gun, and he refuses it. All he needs are his fists. He has crazy occult knowledge, essentially making him an Appalachian occult detective. I got a little bit of book conspiracy here for you. The Cotler character talks about shooting a major motion picture filmed at the new Stonehenge and suggests getting a really talented writer like Dennis Etchinson. So, is this a sarcastic jab at Etchinson? Or did Manly Wade Wellman actually like his writing? The really talented part makes me lean more towards a sarcastic jab, but it's up for interpretation. Look, Silver John is a character who should be as well known and celebrated at least as much as Solomon Kane, who deserves even more praise himself. Every vintage genre fiction fan should have a well-worn John the Balladeer book on their shelf. Bonus! I just found out while writing this review that there was a Silver John movie made in 1972, and some wonderful person put it up on YouTube. I will put the link in the description. What do we give Silver John here? Do we give him a thumb up guitar strumming here? I think a thumb up fist fight. What? You want some? You want some of them? Oh, fucking man. Alright, first up, the Quick Red Fox, John D. MacDonald, Fossil Gold Medal, 1964. This is a later edition. The original cover art here, it was done by Ron Lesser. I don't know who did this one. If you know, let us know in the comments. John Dan MacDonald was an American crime author who lived from 1916 to 1986. After graduating with an MBA from Harvard University in 1939, he joined the United States Army Ordnance Corps, and then in World War II, like E. Howard Hunt, John D. MacDonald served in the Office of Strategic Services. Also like Hunt, MacDonald was stationed in China in the same years, and it makes me wonder if they ever crossed paths. That would be interesting. MacDonald's writing career was prolific and successful. He started off in the pulps, His first story, G Robot, was published in 1936 at the age of 20. He then went on to have over 400 short stories published. Novel-wise, the Travis McGee series, his most popular, had 21 entries, 43 non-series crime thrillers, and 3 science fiction novels. He wrote The Executioners, which was made into a movie called Cape Fear in 1962, and then remade in 1991. He died at the age of 70 from surgery complications. The Quick Red Fox was the 4th entry in the Travis McGee series. Alright, the basic premise here. Laid-back Florida private detective Travis McGee is hired by mega superstar actress Lisa Dean. She's being blackmailed with pictures of a party she attended that turned into a drunken, drug-filled orgy. Travis must traverse the 2 coasts with his stuffy tag-along help, Lisa's assistant, Dana Holzer, to find the other members of the orgy party to see if they were victims or part of the conspiracy. This is the 2nd Travis McGee book that I've ever read. The first one was The Dreadful Lemon Sky. I thought this was way more enjoyable. There is a character called Meyer who is like McGee's drinking buddy. And they talk in this cutesy back and forth, and I just found it to be really annoying. So in this one, Meyer isn't in it. So to me, that made it already more enjoyable. I also loved how McGee wasn't in just one location here. He wasn't in Florida on his houseboat. This book jumps from Florida to upstate New York, to San Francisco, to Las Vegas. This was 100% an investigation novel as he figures out the identities of the rest of the people at the orgy party, hunts them down across the U.S., and gets their take on the party. Everyone is colorful but realistic, with believable motive and reasoning. Except for maybe the Lisa Dean character, who all but says "darling" at the end of every sentence. She's a Midwest gal. She's from Dayton, Ohio. Guess where we're from? We're from Dayton, Ohio. They gives her address. It's 1610 Madison, I believe. I thought it would be funny to go down there and take a picture of the house, but it's downtown and it's like in an industrial part of town, so it's like a big building. But it was cool that it was from here and the street does exist. The character of McGee is a quiet giant of a man with deep philosophical rivers of thought flowing through his brain constantly. He has many beautiful diatribes written on humanity and our relationships with each other and the disgust he has when a person is treated as disposable. It's a very high moral character here. He loathes machismo for the sake of being macho, but is of course the most macho person in the room. Basically, he doesn't start fights, he ends them. Also, the man hates orgies. It's brought up many times in this book, but it's never in a preachy manner. Sure, he likes to sleep around with random ladies for short periods of time, but he actually enjoys them as people, and that elevates him above the orgy people. At least that's his reasoning anyway, but it somehow comes off as admirable and pompous at the same time. His co-star in this is Dana Holzer, Lisa Dean's assistant. She's cold at first, but the ice eventually starts melting around McGee's aloof charm. The man isn't trying to get into her pants, though. He's a gentleman. Remember, he hates orgies. Like every other character in this book, she has a story, and it's a sad one. Her and her husband had a child who was so disabled that they had to abandon it at a mental facility. Not fun. That's not fun. Then her husband gets in a coma. I don't remember how. He's basically living on machines in this hospital, and she's out like making the money, working for the actress Lisa Dean. This story it's bleak. It's bleak again. I used it a lot last time, but once again, there is not a lot of sunshine hitting McGee's houseboat. The rest of the cast runs the gamut of wealthy cockroaches, gray area criminals and victims, domestic violence, and mental abusers, and everyone living the rough party lifestyle that seems fun at the time until years later when you look back and see how messed up your life is become. Serious drug and alcohol addiction and recovery vibes going on in this book. The grit is in the characters, the driving force of the story is the investigation, and that is quick and upbeat. Layers are consistently peeled as we get closer to the answer as to why all of this is happening. Why is somebody blackmailing Lisa Dean? What's up with this orgy? Was it set up? Are there other victims? Etc., etc. Here's a couple fun things. There is a little bit of author trash talking here by MacDonald. McGee refers to the writings of Ulrich woke, and ran as portentous gruntings of witless ilk. Intelligent burn. There's a part where McGee gets into a fist fight with two tough lesbian ladies. One of the ladies at the orgy is now living in a trailer. McGee knocks on the door, and it is exactly the scene from Kolchak the Night Strangler when he meets Charisma Beauty and Wilma Crankheimer. And you know, people are often stealing Richard Matheson's ideas, but this came out before that Kolchak movie. And I think that Richard Matheson borrowed a little MacDonald here. This book was real world gritty. It didn't have the laid back boathouse sunshine, Florida backdrop of the dreadful lemon sky. It's dark, bittersweet, and lushly written. Brain and brawn. Classic PI novel with a balanced meshing of progressive and conservative attitudes, and probably pretty modern for the time it was written. It's thumb up time. What kind of thumb? We're on the boat. Let's see. We're at an thumb orgy? Oh, that's dirty. No. I guess we're going to thumb orgy because I can't think of anything else. Thumb orgy. All right, next up. I believe I said first up for the two previous ones, so we're just going to keep going. First up, The Walking Dead. Guy N. Smith, New English Library, 1984. I don't know who did the cover art. Tell me if you know. Guy N. Smith was a UK horror writer who lived from 1939 to 2020. His early writing career started with writing articles on shooting and firearms. He then appropriately wrote for men's adventure magazines, Simple Step Up. He opened a used book business called Black Hill Books. His first published horror novel was Werewolf by Moonlight in 1974, published by the infamous New English Library. His name is synonymous with pulpy 80s horror. He is responsible for all those crab books. Night of the Crabs, Killer Crabs, The Origin of the Crabs. Yeah, that's right, I'm gonna read them all. Crabs on the Rampage, Crabs Moon, Crabs, The Human Sacrifice, Crabs Fury, Crabs Armada, Crabs Unleashed, Killer Crabs, The Return, and The Charnel Caves, a Crabs novel. The basic premise, The Walking Dead is the sequel to his 1975 book, The Sucking Pit. Our hero, Chris Latimer, has sold his land, which included the Sucking Pit. The new owners made it into a quarry, but now it's sold again, and the new owner is developing the land for homes. While a digger is cleaning up debris, he starts sinking into the Sucking Pit. Evil Ghost Jenny, from the first book, and Ghost Gypsy King show up in the muck, and terror ensues. Alright, I originally purchased both The Sucking Pit and The Walking Dead. The fucking Sucking Pit. That's like the greatest name for a book ever. I originally purchased them both at the same time without realizing that they were connected. And I did read The Sucking Pit and enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. The ending was pretty well concluded of The Sucking Pit. I'm going to say Sucking Pit as much as I can in this review, by the way. I was surprised when I started reading The Walking Dead and realized that, hey, this is a sequel. I don't usually read the backs of the back synopsis on the books after I bought it. Like if I'm looking for a book to read, I just grab it. I've already read it. I know I want it. And yeah, it says it on the cover, but look, I just didn't notice it, okay? All right, to know The Walking Dead, you must know The Sucking Pit. So, our main character in The Walking Dead is Chris Latimer. He was the original protagonist of The Sucking Pit, Jenny's boyfriend. Jenny was the star of The Sucking Pit. He was her boyfriend. After Jenny succumbs to the Sucking Pit, hold on. Did I tell you what the Sucking Pit is yet? The Sucking Pit is a swampy hole in the middle of the woods that for years gypsies have thrown bodies into. And it has like a supernatural force or something going on. It doesn't matter. That's basically it. Okay, Sucking Pit. Jenny's gone at the end, and Chris, her ex-boyfriend, he has been hooking up with Jenny's landlord's wife since Jenny was banging the landlord for rent-free living. The landlord is now at the bottom of the Sucking Pit, and Chris Latimer, our star of The Walking Dead, he has married his Now he has married the guy's wife, and he has inherited the property that the sucking pit is on. Got it? Does it all make sense? It's confusing. I read them both, and it's confusing to me. All right, so now dead landlord's wife, married to Chris Latimer, is out of the picture. I think she died or ran off. I don't know, whatever. It doesn't matter. He inherits the land. He sells it. They make it a quarry. And then the people who owned the quarry sold it to a new developer guy who's going to build houses on top of it. Chris Latimer is back in town, reliving his sucking pit glory days. Why is he back in town? I don't remember, but he wants to go to the sucking pit and just walk around. He gets the feelings, and bad shit starts happening again. This is a crude and rude gore fest with almost zero plot. There's a swampy hole in the woods with evil spirits that hypnotizes people to commit murder, and then they jump in the pit. Ghostly Jenny makes a few appearances, usually as a sexy siren, who then turns into a decaying corpse who likes to show off her rotted undercarriage. I gotta say, I feel really bad for the Jenny character. She was totally innocent in the first one. She got manipulated into the evil, and now she's like some hot to trot, lifeless sack dying for someone to get it on with. They really just dehumanized this poor woman. I mean, the way it's written is schlocky and hilarious, but at the same time, you're like, dude, come on, give this lady a break. Let her rest in peace. This book is really formulaic. It's just scene after scene of a new character getting introduced, getting entranced by the sucking pit, and then going off to kill their loved ones. It's pretty damn funny, though. There's a part where this middle-aged dude sees a young lady, and it's not Jenny. I don't know why they mixed it up for this one time. Sees this hot girl, and she talks him into going home to kill his wife. So he goes home, he grabs an axe, and he goes up the stairs. On the way up, he realizes that he has a boner. So he just pops it out, and then he starts rubbing it with his finger, and thumb and his finger. It's in there. It's written in there, thumb and finger, teeny tiny. He opens the door to his wife, and she's like, he's standing there jerking up, and she's like, what the hell, dude? He fucking hacks her with his raging boner, swinging around, and then he flops down onto her eviscerated corpse and just kind of rolls around in the entrails. And if that sounds good to you, well, good news. You'll love this, because that is all this book is. Here is another amusing point worth mentioning. There's an asterisk on page 105. At the bottom of the page, there's a note, and it says, see sucking pit. You've been referencing the sucking pit the entire book. Why is there an asterisk on page 105 now? Why now? You reference it the whole entire time. It's so awesome. This book is fun. It's a little boring. Once you see it's the same thing over and over again, but it is really short. It's only 150 pages. That helps make it enjoyable. The books have a certain appeal to them that other bad horror books don't have, and I think a big part of that is it's the page count. It's just too short to have filler. It's kill after ridiculous kill, and for as simple as this was, I've read worse climaxes with bigger buildup. Ultimately, I feel that Guyan Smith was like, yeah, sure, whatever, here's the ending. Like, not much was explained, but I don't need much explained. It's a pit in the woods that's evil. So what do we give the sucking pit? This one's easy, come on. Sucking pit. And that's all. Thanks for watching. I have a lot of more reviews to record. I have a lot of more reviews to record, so be on the lookout for that. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you later.